everyone. Hey, this is Maysha with As Long As You're Breathing. And I'm afraid I'm blurry again. It appears to be blurry. I hope not. Hope everyone's doing fine today. I've had Elaine on yesterday. Sorry I had to miss today with Maggie. I had a doctor's appointment today. Also, please excuse the allergies as well. I am going to try to have Gabriella on Saturday. I was afraid I was going to have to postpone that as well, but I've already had to postpone once. Well, she and I agreed to postpone because it was her birthday, but I don't want to do that again if I can keep from it. Hello, glad to have you. Please post, and hopefully I can see who you are, but glad to have you. Going to talk about the unconditional love. What is it and what it is not. Kind of in a really personal way, though. As you all know, I do believe that my calling is to talk about my own life and my own struggle with my health, to help those who have fibromyalgia, which I do believe is an energy disorder related to the fact that our fight or flight mechanism is turned on chronically. And it's a balance, how much to share, how much not to share, etc., etc. But I do believe that our stories, sharing our stories, being brave in doing so, inspires, motivates, and helps other people. And it is what I'm here to do. So, where to begin? My Chiron wound is trust. Now, Chiron wound, I talk about it quite a bit. That is in our natal chart or our astrology. A struggle with faith, which that struggle, thank goodness, is pretty much ended. I have no doubt that we're created, and no doubt in my guides and in my Creator, and I'm good there. But trust still doesn't come easy for me, and mostly trust in myself. That's where I seem to struggle the most, is trust in self. Now, my belief about Chiron wounds, while we each have our own Chiron wound, that is our main Chiron wound that we have, that we're born with, each of us has one of the 12. I believe that we all have each of the Chiron wounds to some degree. I believe we all struggle with trust, and I believe we all struggle with trusting ourselves sometimes. So I don't believe it has to be your particular Chiron wound for you to benefit from listening to someone talk about their struggle with their Chiron wound. So I did do the Chiron in Taurus meditation and put it out yesterday because I decided the easiest way to do them was to just go ahead and correspond them with the moon meditations I was doing. It just seemed to make sense. So that's just how I started doing it. It seemed to, that way I wasn't doing a different zodiac sign for everything. It just all seemed to fit together. So that's the way I did it. But for the purpose of this, I am talking about my particular Chiron wound, which is trust. You can determine what your Chiron wound is by having just go to one of the free sites to do your natal chart, your astrological chart, and it will tell you what your Chiron wound is that way. And then you can go from there. If anyone would like help with that, I would normally tell you I would help you with it, but I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't have the energy right now to help you with it. But there are many people out there who do astrology who will help you with it. I'm unable to overextend myself by doing that at this time, because that is what I have done to myself yet again, is overextended myself. And unconditional love has to start with self. Not because we're selfish people, not because life here is about us. Because I believe life here is about showing up and saying, this is what you can expect of me. Hello, glad to have you. And I know that what I said was what you can expect of me is to share my story with people, to help them with their lives. I know in part that's what I said you could expect of me, which is what I'm doing now. So, but if I don't take care of myself, I'm of no use to anyone. And that is the truth for all of us. And you see, I do have the fibromyalgia pain under control pretty well with the meditations, because I have grounded and centered, and I've balanced the chakras, and I stay that way. And because I've done the quantum emotional healing work and the ancestral clearing work, that has truly helped with the fibromyalgia pain. I have no doubt of that. All the years of medical Western medicine that did not help with the pain, when I had to switch to these modalities, the pain is mostly under control. I do have episodes of it that flare, but as long as I do the things that I know to do, as long as I do this work and keep the meditations up and stay grounded, centered, and balanced, I can keep the pain to where I can deal with it. And that's an amazing thing. And now I've been off of the pain medication for, over a year. And I did have the mid-level of stage 3 renal disease. And today I found out my labs have improved until I'm no longer that. I just have mild. It is so mild that for someone of my age, it's not anything to worry about. Now, I can't go back to taking those medications, but I've reversed it because of the practices that I have now. And that's an amazing thing because of the changes I have made in my life using these modalities. And I'm very thankful to Source, to Divine, to my Creator, to my guides for leading me down this path. And I'm very glad to be sharing it with all of you. I know that is part of what I came here to do and what can be expected of me. And I'm very glad that I have done that. But an aspect of it is, because I do manage the pain so well now, my whole life, the pain has been what has been I've taken my cues from to know, okay, you've overextended now, and you have to rest. You have to stop. You're doing too much. Well, even then I didn't listen always. But the pain would get bad enough that I would have to eventually stop. Or the pain would cause fog and fatigue, and because... Hello. Thank you, Annette. Yes, I know. I'm thrilled. I went from like 54 and 55 GFR to a 61. Yes, I know. I'm thrilled. I was like, wanted to celebrate. If I'd had more energy, I would have. It's so good to have you. So, yes, now I've lost my train of thought, but I'll find it. So in the past, because I had the pain, being foggy and confused, I didn't mind saying so, admitting it, etc., because the pain along with the confusion and the fogginess, they went hand in hand. So I didn't question it. I didn't question myself. I trusted myself. I knew it was fibrofog. I knew what was wrong with me. Now, occasionally, it would be a little more than I was comfortable with. I'd had a couple episodes that had been a little more intense that I had gone to doctors and asked them about when I had been in emotional crisis, huge emotional crisis. Not sleeping at all, divorce, huge loss of some sort, things of that nature. And when I had gone to the doctors, every time, I had been told, okay, you're alert, you're oriented, you know who you are, you've never disassociated, your anxiety is very high, and yes, you're having you're having some severe anxiety episodes, but you've not disassociated, you've not lost touch with reality. And the fact that you're questioning, have I lost touch with reality, tells us you're okay. You're here getting help for it. People who've lost touch with reality don't come to get help for losing touch with reality. But, well, I had sons who's schizophrenic, and so I was afraid. Very afraid. Because I do have clairaudience, and I do have those gifts, and so, and I don't always trust myself, you know. I don't always trust myself because of my Chiron wound. I probably trust myself less at times, especially those times. Far less than I should, at least. Because when we don't feel well, when we're exhausted, and that's what happens to me. When I would have the fibro fog, when I knew it was fibro fog because I also had the pain going along with it, then it was easy to identify. I trusted identifying it as such. I trusted saying, okay, I'm just confused. I'm saying words backwards. I'm not safe to drive. I'm not this, I'm not that. And I trusted saying it's fibro fog. And I trusted even when I went to the doctor and said, okay, I'm worried. And they, even though I didn't necessarily trust what they were saying because I was concerned because there was schizophrenia in my family, still I knew I had gone and I had sought help. I still had some doubt because I'm overly hard on myself. I expect, hello, glad to have you. I expect so much of myself because I'm so disappointed in myself for having this illness and not being able to do all the things I want to do in life. But the pain is so under control now that in the past 3 years have been, well, they've been a living hell, to be perfectly honest, in many ways. I've gone through a divorce. I've gone through losing a son. I've gone through losing my dad. I've gone through moving across the country, then moving back, then, well, moving on my own, trying to manage living on my own under some difficult constraints. And I don't rest. And when you don't rest, well, sleep deprivation alone causes horrific symptoms. And as a nurse, I know this. Sleep deprivation alone causes hallucinations. Sleep deprivation alone causes, well, you can be stark raving mad from sleep deprivation. And for about 3 years now, I haven't slept well at all. I've reduced my medications from what I took. Because they made me gain weight so much, so I reduced medications. And then, of course, reduced medications further because of the shape my kidneys got in. And although my life has improved in many ways and I've decreased stress in some ways, I have other stressors. And although I do the modalities, the modalities I do are, well, the ancestral clearing, for instance. It's energy work, and you have to stay hydrated, and you have to rest adequately afterwards. And because I pushed myself too hard, I didn't do that. I was doing some ancestral clearing and the other modalities that I do, the meditations, the things that I do and not staying hydrated well enough, although I was trying to, but I have to take so many allergy medicines. And it's like I'm drinking all the time and can't drink enough. And I just don't sleep. I try. I really do try. But as you know, with fibromyalgia, we don't get, even when we do sleep, frequently we don't get into the level of sleep that we need to get into to actually rest. And my reason for not getting there is my own personal one, and I'm not going to share that with you. But it's my own personal reason, and I've just got to overcome it myself. I just have to overcome it myself. But I hadn't been sleeping, or not consistently enough. Had not been able to stay hydrated well enough. Sherry says that she's going to move me to California so she can feed me properly because I am determined to lose weight and have a very low metabolism, and even though I'll try to walk daily when the weather allows, my energy allows, it does take decrease in the caloric intake and that type of thing for me to lose weight, and I'm very self-conscious about the weight and getting it down. I do have it to pretty much where I want it to be. I don't want to be model thin. I'm pretty good with where it's at. I just don't want to gain anymore, to be perfectly honest. But so I did those things to myself, in part. Then I got a UTI, which of course I had to take antibiotics for, which didn't help any, because those are a strain on the system. Then my allergies have been flared up. Well, I do know that, of course, the pollen is up. I have added the Mississippi honey, and yes, I do have the state right. I do know what state I'm in. I always knew what state. I've been telling people, I've been saying Kentucky honey, and I don't know why. I do have Mississippi honey, and I am taking Mississippi honey. But, so I'm using Mississippi honey for the allergies, and it'll take a bit, but that will help. But the heat vent in the venting here in my apartment was messed up. So that's been contributing, I'm sure. I'm extremely allergic to dust mites. I'm actually supposed to do my sheets preferably twice a week, at least once a week, in very hot water because of dust mites. And I had failed to do that, so I did that to myself. And so I'm going to have to stay on top of doing that sort of thing to keep dust mites down, because that will help with this as well. So there are things I can do to make my allergies better. And of course, let's hope the pollen gets under control soon. And I may need to go ahead and just go back to my allergist that I have here. I may have to go back to the allergy shots as well, which if I do, I do. And that'll be fine too. I'm certainly capable of doing that. So, but what I did to myself is I wanted to go to the Smokies. I love the Smokies. It's about a 9-hour drive. And that's what I did. I went to the Smokies on my own. And drove myself back. And got myself in a horrible shape doing it. Very confused. From just flat out exhaustion. Just flat out exhaustion. Because it was too much for me. And then when I got home, I had a horrific waking, half in and out dream that just terrified me. So then I was afraid to sleep because I didn't want to have that dream again. So that made it even worse. So by lack of self-care, I created one hell of a storm for myself. A perfect storm, which created confusion and schizophrenic-like condition for me, which then, of course, caused me to not trust myself about anything. Things that I knew had happened, I started questioning, did they even happen? Now, I trust myself. I do. Because I knew the whole time I was coming home what reality was. I knew who I was, where I was, what was going on. And I was getting myself home. And even when I got home and had this horrific dream, although it seemed so real, I kept telling myself, as real as this seems, this has got to be because of, this has to have been a dream. So, but I started questioning myself. Even worse so, I started questioning, does everyone else question me? Someone had beaten on my window several weeks ago, actually. And the young man came forward because he thought his friend still lived here and found out his friend didn't. And they had a conversation, and so I found out a couple of days ago that, yeah, that was so-and-so, and he thought that so-and-so still lived there, and he's so sorry he scared you. I went to my knees in the floor, thanking God that the person came forward and said something, because I knew it had happened. But I was so afraid that the people around me didn't believe me because I had gotten so confused because of how I had pushed myself. I had an incident in the laundry room occur, and I was wrong, mistaken about that. Totally an accident. It was totally explainable. And people I've talked to about it since was like, it's the same, it's exactly how I would have interpreted those events. I would have interpreted those events exactly the same way. And I know that here. I do. We have to trust ourselves. But when your Chiron wound is trust, what I have found is, over the years, I've gone too far. I didn't trust at all. And because I didn't trust at all, I thought that meant that to be healed of that wound, and I didn't even know about the wound. I just knew that, okay, I don't trust people, so I've got to trust. And the truth is, you had to trust but verify. You had to be balanced about it. Imagine that word coming up in my life again. Must be something to that, huh? You think I may have a little bit of a lesson there to learn too? The same thing here. I did the right thing in trusting in myself about the laundry room and the window. I knew those things happened, and I didn't need to verify those. It was a relief to me, yes. And I thank God for the people, the guy that came forward, and for other people saying, Maysha, I would have interpreted those events that happened with the laundry room exactly the way you did. And I thank God for those things. And there was nothing to verify there. But I did the right thing with my health. trusted myself. I knew that I was alert, oriented, knew where I was, didn't lose touch with reality, but at the same time, I recognized there were some serious problems going on. Things were not firing right. And instead of pretending it was okay or ignoring it until it wasn't okay, I reached out to friends and I was honest and I got help. And that's what I want to tell you to do. So this really is an unconditional love message. It's unconditional love for self. But it is also a message about health. Not just health. This isn't everything. It's in everything. Truly. When we don't understand something, ask. Don't assume. Don't stay silent. Verify. Trust yourself, but verify. It was scary. It was scary. I contacted a friend because I needed to verify had something happened or not happened. And that was scary to do because it made me vulnerable. But it was better to do that for myself. And ultimately, for all the people in my life. It would have been selfish of me not to. Because you see, I'm in relationship with all of these people. And whether it's just in passing, like my neighbor, or whether it's the people who are my friends or the people I'm closest to, the things I do have ripple effects in their lives. So it was better that I reached out and verified. It was better that I communicated than kept it to myself. And it was better that I was clear in my communication rather than vague. And in some of it I was vague because I was embarrassed. And when we're vague when we communicate, then, well, it can mean one thing or it can mean another, and we're not really committed to it, so we can hem-haw around it and get out of being embarrassed or whatever later, and that's not the way to do it either. We need to be clear. Most of my communicating I was not vague. And eventually I ended up not being vague with any of them. I started out a little vague because I was embarrassed and not exactly sure what was going on. But before it was over, I was just flat out, this is how it is. I need help. This is how it is. I need help. And I got the help I needed. And the help I needed is also a balanced approach as well, an integrated approach like I teach here. I'm not anti-Western medicine. I do have medication now to help me sleep and to help me with anxiety for, today's the 13th, until the 24th. I wouldn't go longer than that because those medications cause me to gain weight, and I'm not willing to do that. And I'm not willing to be on them long term because I manage my health very well now. Without all of those medications, this is a crisis I got into because I'm very anxious about a situation that I've allowed to escalate emotionally for myself that is I have to deal with. And I'm going to do that. That's on me. to do. And I have these modalities to do that with. And so I'm going to use those. But I didn't cut out my doctor. I went to the doctor, got an appointment, I went. So I have short-term medications. I've added a couple of supplements, one that I'd never used before I added, and one that I had somehow dropped. I've added back. And I will continue to use the modalities I've been using. Only I've got to rest up some first because energy work is draining and you do have to be hydrated for it, etc., etc., and I need to rest up. So I am doing the meditations, that sort of thing, but I won't be doing any of the more hardcore stuff for a little bit until I've got to get rested back up first. But my Chiron wound is trust. And even for myself, I have to trust but verify sometimes. And unconditional love is the same thing. It's love. It's the same thing. We don't just love or not love. We love. And we can't help but love sometimes, but we verify. We verify. And it's got to be a positive energy loop. If you're not in a positive energy loop, you're just going to drain yourself. And you can't do that. That's why the 1 + 1 = 3 model is so important. And it's why I'm so determined to teach relationship. People have got to be willing to step up and be accountable and say, this is what you can expect of me. Each person. And yes, we do have to be whole and complete in and of ourselves when we get into relationships. But we're never going to be whole and complete. That's always work in progress. So don't think you have to have everything together before you're in a relationship. Now, you can't be totally broken either. You got to have your act pretty well together. Then you get in a relationship. But you come and you say, this is what you can expect of me. Each of you do. And you say it clearly. And you put that in the third person in the relationship, which is the relationship. And you don't hem-haw around what that is. You don't say it vaguely, so it can be, well, one day it is that, and one day it's not that. Because that leads to confusion, and that can't be verified. That's not balanced. And you can't have trust. So, unconditional love, trusting ourselves, how we show up in relationship, all of these things are connected. It's very hard to teach on one and not teach on the other. But the main thing I want to get across today is you do have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. And when you find yourself verifying yourself, that's a good thing. That means you're holding yourself accountable to yourself. And when you do that, I would say that's a pretty good darn indicator that you're wanting to be in alignment with self. And that you're wanting to be balanced and centered. and that you're going to reach out to the right people and do the right things. As long as you're breathing. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you all again soon.